today's video, I want to catch up with you on how things are going in my Hobonichi Weeks that I'm using this year as a memory keeper and media log tracker. I have some thoughts. Possibly I have some regrets, but I am still planning on staying in this book for the rest of the year, but I am struggling with it, and I thought we could spend some time chatting about why. Before we get into the Hobonichi Weeks, I do have some small Inky updates that I wanted to share with you. So if you're not interested in that, then I will leave a timestamp and you can go ahead and skip this next part. But there were just a few things that I wanted to share, and I couldn't wait to put it in another video. So let's get right into it. Okay, the first thing is I wanted to share something I'm very proud of, and that is that I have recently finished 4 ink bottles, and I'm very proud. So I guess I kind of cheated a little bit, and I will be upfront and say part of the reason why I was able to finish these bottles was because I have been sharing samples of these inks. 3 of these are collaborations with Wonder Pens, and so I often share these inks in ink trades because I know that they're a little bit harder to get outside of Canada. But this is the first ink bottle that I ever bought for myself. This is Ferris Wheel Press Writing Desk, and this is the bottle that kind of got me into fountain pens in the first place. I fell in love with this ink and I needed a fountain pen to put the ink into, and so I finally ventured into fountain pens, even though I kind of avoided it for a while because I knew it was something that I was going to love, and I knew that I would have trouble moderating myself with this hobby. But anyway, it's so cool to see that I've finished this bottle. This is Peter Moss, and you can see that there is some ink around here because this accidentally, I had a few of these inks in a little basket that I was getting ready to prepare ink samples with, and this bottle was tipped over just a little bit, and a bunch of ink actually leaked out of this bottle. I've never had like an ink accident before until this, but I have to say I'm not really a fan of these bottles. I've heard people complain about them tipping over. It never happened to me until recently, but beware. If you have Ferris Wheel Press inks, beware that they don't seal very well. And then these next 2 inks are also exclusives with Wonder Pens. This is Tuna and Olives. It's a Dominant Industry collaboration. And this is Ginger Chicken. So in case you're unaware, there are 2 shop cats. One is named Tuna and one is named Chicken. And so these 2 inks are named after their shop cats. I love these inks. I love sharing them with other people. I think they're very beautiful and unique. And I don't know, I just wanted to celebrate that because how often do you get to say that you finished ink bottles? I honestly never thought I would see the day because I have more ink than I know what to do with sometimes. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. The next update is I have been exploring Pilot Iroshizuku Kosumosu in more depth. And I thought it would be interesting to share some of the ways that I like to do a deep dive into certain inks. I like to take an ink and I like to ink it in a bunch of different pens so that I can really compare how they write in different pens or different nib sizes. On this page, I have inked it into all of my Sailor pens. This one is my Hachimanjia Kobuzakura, and this is a fine nib. I did have this nib tuned because it was really scratchy. So I don't know if this is like a true Sailor fine anymore, because to me it actually looks very similar to the pen right beside it, but we'll talk about that in a second. So the next one here is my Sailor Pro Gear, which is right here. This one is a 21K nib. in a medium fine. And this is just right out of the box. I haven't done any work on it. And I do find it really interesting how similar these two pens are. And then this over here is my Wancher Matcha, and this is a medium fine in an 18K nib. And it's actually quite broad. And I also had this pen worked on, so I don't know if they ended up making it broader than usual, because I find it interesting. This is a medium fine and this is a medium fine, but this one is so much more broad. But I actually don't mind it because I like how with broader nibs it makes inks look a little more softer, and it really makes this Kosumosu ink look very interesting. Over here I have my Sailor Pro Gear Slim, and this is extra fine, so very fine. I think this is one of my finest nibs. And then I have my Sailor Pro Gear Slim, and this is a fine nib, another one of my favorite fine writing experiences. I think this is probably, out of all of these, I think this is my favorite writing experience. Not my favorite pen body color, but favorite writing experience. This is the pen that made me really fall in love with Sailor pens. And then the last one here is my Ancora Sailor pen. This one is also a medium fine in a steel nib. That's one of the ways that I like to really do like a deep dive into an ink, and I'll just give you a chance to take a look at it up close. That's how they look in the different pens. Let me know if you have any questions or if you want me to show any writing samples on different paper. This is the Midori Hibino because it's the paper that I use the most, and actually I do really like how this pink gets muted down on this cream paper. I just feel like it just mutes the pink down and makes it slightly less vibrant. So I do really like that. And then the other way that I have been playing around with the ink is I've been mixing it with other Pilot Iroshizuku inks just to see if I can come up with some other colors that I really enjoy. And here is the first, the results of the first experiment. And I'm pretty happy with it, although I am trying to figure out how, if possible, I can make some of these a little bit lighter so they feel a little closer to like Sailor Manyo inks. I don't even know if that's possible, but yeah, I played around with, these are all Kosumosu mixed with other Iroshizuku inks. So this is like Kosumosu with Konpeki. This is Kosumosu and Konpeki, but just a different ratio of Kosumosu, a bit more. Same thing here. So these are all, I basically just took this base and then I kept adding Kosumosu to see how adding more pink would change the base color. And this is actually a swatch of this. This is a bigger swatch of this combination. And then down here I mixed Kosumosu and Ajisai. So I just kind of played around with that. This one is Kosumosu, Ajisai, and Konpeki. And then over here I have added some distilled water. So this is this ink, but I added some distilled water, and then this is that ink with some distilled water because I was curious if that would make it feel a little bit lighter. So I'm still playing around with it, but I just wanted to show you and remind myself one of the reasons why I picked up the ink, because in my stationery regrets video, I completely forgot that that was one of my rationales for buying it, was thinking even if I don't love the pink, maybe I can mix it with other colors, because I love the writing experience of Pilot Iroshizuku inks. I truly think that it's just my favorite writing experience, and whenever I put a Pilot Iroshizuku ink into a pen, I know that I'm going to enjoy how it feels to write with, but the colors are just not really my preference. And so I knew that I wanted to eventually try to make other colors that were more suited for my preference. Really happy with some of these experiments. And if you have any tips on mixing colors, let me know. This one is actually a mix of Kosumosu, Konpeki, and Yamaburo. And you can see there's actually a little bit of a kind of like green, dark green sheen here, which I think is interesting. The last Inky update is I did get a question about the difference between Kobe strawberry chocolate and Gribo Rosa Antico, I think. And I mentioned that I would share a writing sample in my next Cozy Catch-Up. I realized that I don't actually have a direct comparison just yet because last time I inked up this pen with the Scribo Rosa Antico, I forgot to do a writing sample in here. So right now this is inked with Kosumosu, so it's gonna take me a little while to do that writing comparison. I thought I would show you what I did remember to compare. So this is my pen and ink log. I don't know if you've seen this before, but it's not that well updated, but essentially I try to have all my pens logged and I draw them in, and then when I remember, I try to log every time that I've inked it with a different pen, just so I can compare what they look like. And for my Hachimanjia pen, here is the comparison so far. So I don't have Scribo Rosa Antico, so I will add that when I next ink it up. But just to show you, this is actually a mix that I made with Hana Ikata, which is another Pilot Irjizuku ink mixed with Fuyu Shogun, which is a gray, so very beautiful. And then this is Kobe Strawberry Chocolate. This is Color vs. Brunch Date, another ink that I really love. And then this is Pilot Irjizuku Kosumosu. So yeah, just wanted to share those comparisons, and then I will do a writing sample of the Kobe Strawberry Chocolate against the Scribo ink, and then I'll share that either in a future video or in my community tab for the person that was asking about it. Okay, so now I'd like to talk about my Hobonichi Weeks. So as you may or may not know, I decided to use the Hobonichi Weeks this year as my main memory keeper. Last year, I was using these half-year vertical weekly inserts from Traveler's Company, and I was kind of using it just as a place to put photos and just different highlights for each week. I really enjoyed using these two inserts. And I actually had planned on doing a flip through of this, but then we're already almost finished Q1 of 2026, so I'm not sure if there's still interest in seeing this. If you are interested, let me know and I can definitely film a flip through, but I basically use it as photos and for highlights. And I really loved this, but what I didn't like about it was there were a few things. I didn't like that they were in two separate inserts because I honestly just wanted to have everything in one book. And I also didn't really like that I had to wait until the end of the week to update this. And sometimes it would just feel overwhelming when I would sit down and feel like I had a whole week to catch up on, as opposed to my original intent for this, which was that I would use the days and do a quick update on each day. And I was heavily inspired to do this approach after watching a bunch of Adri's Logs videos. She uses her weeks in this way, and it's really inspiring, and it makes a lot of sense to me to be able to just come in every day and only have like this small space to write into. But when I tried this in December, I quickly realized that this was not going to work for me. I just found that this was very repetitive to my 5-year, And I found this blank page to be so stressful. I put way too much time into worrying about this. And then I also felt like I didn't have enough room to put my photos. And as a memory keeper, at least the way I wanted to use this book, I wanted it to be a place where I could put my photos into, because there isn't really another space that I have where I can add stuff like that into. I kind of pivoted. I tried it one more week and I realized it just wasn't going to work. So I ended up pivoting. I didn't finish using this in December because I finished my 2025 in my Traveler's Notebook inserts. And then I ended up switching over to trying to use this weekly as in the same way that I was using the weekly here. Yeah, my thought was that with all this extra space over here and over here, this would be almost the same amount of room as this. And so I just thought, well, I might as well just go back to using this kind of like a weekly overview and then continue doing my daily recaps in my 5-year, which kind of made more sense to me anyway. And so that's what I've been doing since I moved into this book. And I have been pretty consistent, as you can see. I haven't really missed a week. But I don't know. I think I'm really having trouble getting into this book. I can't quite put my finger on what it is. I've been really trying to figure out, like, did I feel that way with this? I don't have any answers. I'm kind of processing as I'm filming this, because something is not working with this, and it's not a big deal. Like, it's not a deal breaker. I'm not planning on hopping away from this book. I was tempted at the end of last year when I was testing this out in December. I was tempted to go back to, like, I was tempted to buy the 2025 Vertical Weekly and move back into this for 2026. But I really wanted to see if I could stick with this and to see what would happen. I am pretty confident that I'm going to be able to finish the year in this book. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't feel that attachment to this book in the way that I did with these inserts. And I do remember there was a bit of an adjustment period with these inserts. For example, like in the very beginning, I had a very different kind of style. And it wasn't really until I decided that I wanted it to be a place where I kind of leaned into it being almost like a bit of a picture album that I eventually landed on this kind of like roughly four photos, because I can make a collage with 4 photos, which feels okay. Yeah, I pretty much stuck with that approach for the rest of the year. So I've been pretty happy. I've been pretty happy with how I've approached this. So yeah, I think it must have, you know what, now that I'm looking at this, I think it must have taken until April before I started to really enjoy being in here, honestly, because I'm looking at this now and I'm thinking it wasn't really until April that I kind of consistently did this photo style. And I remember that's when I felt like this is how I wanted to continue using, and I didn't really change it for the rest of the year. So maybe I just need to be a little more patient, because we're not even in April yet. But I think part of the problem is this feels really small, and once I print photos, it feels like there's just almost like no room to really write anything else. And I think I'm struggling with the fact that this feels like too little room. Also, I do struggle with the fact that there aren't lines on this side. Whereas over here, I was able to kind of add my own lines I don't know if you can see, but over here I was able to add lines just to be able to write a little more neatly. And I guess like the ratio of the photos to the page, it just doesn't feel like it swallows the page as much. And I felt like I had a little more room to put bigger stickers. But if I put a sticker like this over here, it would just take up so much space that I wouldn't really have any room to write. So I don't know. I'm really struggling with this, but not necessarily to the point where I want to abandon it, because I do think it'll be really nice to have a whole year in one book. Oh, and I didn't want to forget, I got this adorable card from Helena over at Tiny Tiger Collective. She recently launched her shop, and I picked up some of her stickers. They're so cute. They're really, really cute in person. I mean, they're cute in her video, but I think they're even nicer in person. I picked up some of these, and I'm planning on using them whenever I interact with my niece, because this character reminds me a lot of my niece. And then for these ones, I might gift them to a friend who is expecting. So I think I'll probably gift these, but I'm going to keep some of these for myself. They're so cute. I also got some of these really adorable die cut larger stickers, and I love this because in my mind this is a Pilot Custom 823, and I don't have bangs like this, but I have like side bangs, and I'm just imagining this is kind of like my inner child just hugging my favorite pen. So yeah, I just wanted to share these really adorable stickers. I also think I was adding a lot more like ephemera into my TN because I had more room, whereas here I just feel like space is so limited that I'm trying to leave myself with enough room to actually write in here. So I don't know if that's also an issue. And in the back, in the notes, I am using it for like a media log, so TV shows and movies. I started out with this kind of layout because last year I had a similar approach with my weeks, and I felt like it worked pretty well. It was just, something I could put together pretty easily. Yeah, I liked it. It was very easy to log things because I had a very set structure that I could follow, and I really liked it. I started off this year kind of doing these two, and I don't know, I wasn't feeling it. So I guess I just needed a change. And I try to always see if I can tweak something with my current book before I start entertaining the idea of moving away into a completely different book. And so I was thinking, I'm feeling kind of constrained in these weekly pages somehow, and I can't quite put my finger on it. So maybe there's room to be a little more creative with my media log. So I started printing out more photos that remind me of the movie or the TV show. Started adding more stickers, but still I feel like I have to be very careful with the stickers that I use because I want to have enough room to write. Anytime I have an opportunity to use stickers that I have is something that's going to make me happy. Yeah, and I still have some to catch up on, but that's how I've been using the notes pages. And then in the front, I've been tracking any inks that are coming in, whether it's bottles or samples. And I actually have to catch up in February and March because I have received a few more ink samples that I'm really excited to swatch out and play with. So, I don't know. I'm really struggling. I mean, really is a strong word. I'm struggling to figure out what it is about this that isn't quite working. I'm really missing the TN inserts, and I'm trying to figure out what it is that I miss about it. I mean, okay, I'm already looking at these insert covers and I'm thinking these are beautiful. I mean, this is a beautiful cover too. So But this one feels even more personalized. I don't know if maybe that played a role. I think having more room, sometimes that can feel overwhelming when you don't have a lot of time, but other times having too little room can feel kind of stifling. And I'm a very wordy person, so it's very difficult for me to be concise even in a small space like this. I also think that I really liked this layout on the top, where if I wanted to, I could add little tidbits and little things in the top to kind of remind me of what was going on. So I could talk about bigger events here, but I could also put little things here throughout the week. So I think that was really nice. I just think that I had a little more room to play with stickers. Maybe I could still do that here. This is very portable, which I like. Maybe this layout is better for me. And if so, could I potentially experiment with trying to create that layout here? Like, would it help if I put a little box at the top so that I could have those little snippets for the week and then use this bottom part for this space? Perhaps I could try that. Maybe I like the structure here better. Maybe I just want more room. I mean, I don't actually know if this is more room. I think this might be one of my regrets. Another one of my stationery or planner regrets, at least for now. And I'm really interested in seeing if that opinion changes over time. So will I eventually get to a place where I actually feel the same way about my weeks as I do here? Because I think once I've filled this up with memories, it's going to be really lovely to flip through an entire year of memories. Not that this is really that bad now that I'm looking at it. Like, just having them in this binder and having them together is pretty good. But there is something that I really like about having everything in one place, which is why I wanted to switch to the weeks for memory keeping. Yeah, so I'm not quitting. Maybe I can do some more layout experiments to see if there's other ways that I can play around with the page to be a little more creative with this space. If you have any ideas or any theories as to why I am not really feeling this compared to how I was using this, let me know. Something's not quite working. I still don't know what it is, but just because it's not working, it doesn't mean that I need to abandon this. And it's not like I'm hating it. I think that's the other thing, is if you're really miserable and you're not enjoying the time that you're in here, I mean, this is meant to be something that is relaxing and bring you joy. And if that is not happening, then maybe it's time to find a different way to journal. For me, I feel like it's checking all the boxes in that it's allowing me a space to print some photos and document highlights of the week as they happen all in one place. And it's basically going to be a really great resource to look back on one day to see like movies that I enjoyed a lot to me. And then, of course, even though it seems silly, like just having a space to take a look at all the inks that I have acquired in 2026. So I feel like in theory, this is just going to be awesome. But it just, yeah, I guess I'll just have to figure out like what I can do. I mean, with my TN, I added a bunch of charms and I just made it a little more personal. So I wonder if maybe there's something I can do to personalize it a bit more. So when I open it, I just feel a little more, I guess, excitement. Let me know what you think. Good morning. I'm just about to start my workday, but I wanted to pop in and share an update on my Hobonichi Weeks. After I finished filming my thoughts on my Hobonichi Weeks and some regrets I was feeling over not being in the Traveler's Notebook vertical weekly inserts for memory keeping, I thought I would try applying some of my own strategies on trying to refresh my existing books to see if I can make myself feel more at home in them. So, taking some inspiration from this traveler's notebook, I thought about what I really loved about being in this last year, because my traveler's notebook inserts were in this cover last year. And I think part of it was just really loving the cover, really looking at this and feeling a really strong connection to it. So it was a joy to pick up every day and hold. And now that I've added these extra accessories or little bits of jewelry or charms to it, I just find myself reaching for it even more and feeling even more connected to it. As I was flipping through this yesterday, I was reminded of how kind of annoying it is to flip through this book. It doesn't really lay open, as you can see. I can't really have this open and kind of, look at something without using a clip. So it was good to remind myself of the reasons why I made the decision to move into this week's in the first place. And so I wanted to just see if there was anything I could do to make myself want to pick up this book more and to make it feel more like home. When I think about my actual home, the more I add to my home in terms of accessories like art on the walls, the more I feel like it is my place rather than just a concrete box, which it also is. And so I didn't film it, but I did add some more charms to the side, and I thought I would share that with you. So a few videos ago, I mentioned that I had some charms. I made 2 sets of charms at one of my friend's workshops. Originally had thought that I would add this charm eventually to this traveler's notebook, but I thought, why not try adding it to my weeks? So I did do a little bit of research, and I know that some people punch holes into the spine here, and that's how they attach charms. But I also read that some people had this plastic rip on them, and so I decided to play it a bit more safe. And I ended up using these 2 bookmarks, and I basically strung this charm through one of these bookmarks, and then I just tied a few knots. I don't know if you can see that, but I just tied a few knots here. Hopefully you can see that. It's a little bit dark today. And hopefully that'll stay. And then in order to keep these bookmarks kind of weighted down, I took some of these 2 charms that were previously on the edge here, but I felt like they were getting a bit drowned out from this larger charm that I had added, and I added them to the bottom. Now, I have no idea if this is going to, if I'm even using these clips correctly, but in order to secure them, I tied a knot, and then I used one of these, I don't know what these are, clasp things. Again, I have no idea if I'm using them properly, but this seemed a little more secure than just leaving the knots tied, because this is one of the Wabi Sabi charms from Baumkuchen, which I really love. And then this is actually a jade necklace that I wore as a child. So this is very sentimental to me, and I would be very sad if I lost this. So I really wanted to make sure that it was secure. I know that Michelle from Seaweed Kisses has also mentioned that she uses fabric glue to secure this, but I didn't have any fabric glue, and I have a whole pack of these, and so I just thought I would try that out. And I probably will eventually remove this clasp to keep it, but I also like having the clasp there, because if I decide to remove this as a bookmark, then I can tie this onto something else. So yeah, I like this because I feel like it weighs these down a little more in the book. And I use one bookmark for the week that I'm in. So I'll put that over here. And then I'll use the other bookmark for where I left off with the movies. And yeah, I'm really happy with this. I think it just adds a little more personality and interest. One other thing that I was thinking about doing was taking one of my extra Traveler's Notebook elastics and potentially having it strung around here. And then I don't know if this is like too much. I was thinking about maybe adding a little bear onto here as like a little extra charm on the front. And I like that it says have a nice trip, because I think life can be a trip. And if this is sort of my memory keeper of my life in 2026, I kind of like how that goes together. So that's one thing. I might see about punching a hole in the side here and then stringing this across so that it's kind of attached. I don't think I'd want to just use the elastic on its own, but I'm just curious if any of you have punched a hole here, if that has torn the plastic, because this cover is 2 or maybe even 3 years old, and actually the pen loop has already ripped off because it's plastic, so I don't think it's meant to last forever. I used to have one of these like little Velcro dots on the side, but I had kind of set it up to have enough room if I wanted to have a pen in here. And since the pen loop broke off, now it just gets annoying and I feel like it doesn't really close this book very well. So I'm thinking about kind of retiring that little clasp and using maybe using an elastic instead, kind of Traveler's Notebook style. But I haven't decided yet because I am really hesitant to poke a hole in here. So if you have any ideas, let me know. But I just wanted to share that. They're very simple changes, but I think they have made an impact, and I am already feeling more, I guess, resolved in staying in this book after having done that little reflection. I mean, as this grows, maybe it won't lay that flat either, but so far, like, I can look at this and I love that it just, I love that it lays flat, and I love that at the end of the year, I'll just have the whole year in one book. So that's very appealing to me. And then having all of the TV shows and movies that I've watched in the back, I think will be really nice to look back on, especially because I tend to do these reviews sort of with my partner. So I will write a synopsis. Sometimes I'll take the synopsis from IMDb, but I find that they're so vague, I guess because they don't want to spoil anything. And I do these reviews because I want to remember what happened, maybe in case it's a TV show, so that I can, have a bit of a recap before I watch the next season, or just in general, like to remember a little more about what I've consumed. So usually I'll add the main things that happened, and then I'll do some notes, my thoughts, but I'll also ask my partner about his thoughts if we've watched this together. So it's just a really nice way for us to reflect together on some of the things that we're consuming. And I really like that. So I don't know. I think in filming this video, I'm really glad that I kind of processed some of the things that I was feeling. I think the TN has a little more room. There's a little more room for adding ephemera and being slightly more creative visually, but it is 2 books. Even when I was filming this the other day, I was getting irritated, like just trying to, show you some of these pages, and the fact that it just wouldn't lay flat was kind of bothering me a little bit. So I think there's always going to be, pros and cons for each of the systems that you're in. But I'm definitely staying in this for this year, and I'm looking forward to sticking through this and seeing what it's like at the end of the year. I think this is probably going to get quite fluffy, but it's a small book, so I do think it can handle it. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to share that last bit with you. And if you have any other ideas or suggestions on how I might further dress up my Hobonichi Weeks, let me know. I'm pretty happy so far with adding this extra charm and adding some on my bookmarks. I think already I'm just finding myself, I like looking at it a little more. It's just a little more interesting. And I'm looking forward to updating this week, and also have a few more movies to catch up on. So I'm looking forward to doing that over the weekend. And I will share an update maybe at the end of Q1 or possibly at the mid-year mark. Let me know if you have a preference. Let me know if you would want me to do a more in-depth flip through of my memory keeper. I think you pretty much saw it in this video, but if you do want me to go into more detail, let me know and I can definitely do that. If you are in your Hobonichi Weeks, I'd love to know what are some ways that you have customized it to make it even more your own. I know a lot of people add stickers to the cover, but I love this cover so much that I really didn't want to add anything to it. But yeah, let me know how you've been customizing your weeks. If you're still here, thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you soon in the next video.